Look at a mushroom. Just look at it. Popping up after rain, sitting there like a tiny umbrella. Is it a plant? No. An animal? Definitely not. It's something else entirely. Something so strange, so ancient, so utterly different from us, that some people seriously wonder, are mushrooms aliens? I know. That sounds like a campfire story for conspiracy theorists. But stick with me. By the end of this video, you might find yourself staring at a portobello with new eyes. Because once you dive into the hidden world of fungi, it's hard not to feel like they came from somewhere else. First, we have to understand just how alien mushrooms already are. You learned in school that life is divided into plants and animals, but fungi are their own kingdom. They're neither plant nor animal. They're more closely related to you than to a sunflower. Think about that the next time you saute a mushroom. You're eating a distant cousin. But the way they live? Completely upside down. Animals like us eat food and digest it inside our bodies. Fungi do the opposite. They secrete digestive enzymes outside their bodies, dissolving their meal into a nutrient soup, then they absorb it. They barf, then slurp. It's gross and it's brilliant. And what you see above ground, the stem, the cap, the gills, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's the reproductive organ, the fruit of a much larger creature. The real fungus lives underground, a sprawling, thread-like network called mycelium. Imagine a single organism stretching for miles beneath your feet. The largest known living thing on Earth is a honey fungus in Oregon's Blue Mountains. It spans over 3.5 miles across and is thousands of years old. It might look like a forest floor littered with mushrooms, but it's all one connected entity. One massive, hidden life form. If that's not an alien concept, I don't know what is. Now let's talk about how mushrooms reproduce. They don't use seeds. They use spores, microscopic particles so tiny and light that a single mushroom can release billions of them into the air. The air you're breathing right now is full of fungal spores. Congratulations, you're inhaling alien eggs. Here's where the alien theories really start to gain traction. Those spores are nearly indestructible. Scientific experiments have exposed fungal spores to the vacuum of space, to extreme temperatures, to ultraviolet radiation that would fry most Earth life, and they survived. Not just survived, thrived. Some fungi produce melanin, the same pigment that colors human skin. But these fungi don't use it to protect against the sun. They use it to feed on radiation. They literally convert gamma rays into chemical energy. Radiotrophic fungi have been found colonizing the walls of Chernobyl's ruined reactors, eating radiation like it's a buffet. Imagine a life form that can eat the most toxic energy in the universe and ask for seconds. Now, imagine that life form's spores, floating in the cold vacuum of space for millions of years, waiting to land on a suitable planet. If you're building a life form designed to travel between worlds, a fungal spore is a pretty good blueprint. This brings us to the theory of panspermia. The idea that life might not have originated on Earth at all, but was delivered here on asteroids or comets. And if that's true, the first living things to touch down here might have been fungal spores. In other words, mushrooms might not be aliens that arrived yesterday. They might be the original aliens, the ones that seeded the whole party. If fungi did arrive from space, they've spent billions of years building an interplanetary communication network right under our noses. When scientists studied forest soil, they discovered something incredible. The mycelial threads aren't just growing randomly. They're connecting the roots of different trees, oaks, to pines to birches, forming an underground mesh that allows trees to share resources. Trees use this fungal network to trade carbon for phosphorus. A struggling sapling in the shade can be fed sugars by a larger tree, all through the fungal wires. When a tree is attacked by insects, it sends chemical warning signals through the mycelium, and neighboring trees boost their defenses before the bugs even arrive. Scientists call it the Wood Wide Web. It's an underground internet made of living fungus. Think about what that means. A networked intelligence, redistributing energy and information across entire ecosystems. It's not a brain in the traditional sense, but it behaves like one, processing data, responding to threats, maintaining balance. If an alien intelligence came to Earth, would we even recognize it? Or would we just see mushrooms and walk right past? Now, let's get creepy. Some fungi don't just connect minds, they control them. The cordyceps fungus is the poster child for fungal mind control. It infects an ant and begins to grow inside its body, but it doesn't kill its host right away. Instead, it manipulates the ant's brain, compelling it to abandon its colony, climb a plant stem, and clamp its jaws onto a leaf in the perfect position for the fungus to grow. Then, the ant dies, and a mushroom erupts from its head, raining spores down onto the colony below. It's like a tiny horror movie directed by a mushroom. But cordyceps is just the most dramatic example. Fungi can manipulate plants, insects, even larger animals. There are fungi that change the scent of flowers to attract pollinators. There are fungi that turn grass into bitter, toxic swamps to repel grazers. The more we look, the more we realize fungi have been pulling strings for eons. And that leads to an uncomfortable question. If a fungus can pilot an ant like a tiny meat robot, could it influence something bigger? Could it influence us? Enter the psychedelic mushrooms. Humans have been consuming psilocybin mushrooms for thousands of years, possibly much longer. Ancient rock art in Algeria depicts mushroom-headed figures dating back 9,000 years. Cultures across the globe have used these fungi for spiritual rituals, healing, and visions. In the 1990s, ethnobotanist Terence McKenna proposed a wild hypothesis called the stoned ape theory. He suggested that our early hominid ancestors in Africa descended from trees and encountered psilocybin mushrooms growing on cow dung. Low doses increased visual acuity, better for hunting, while slightly higher doses triggered profound cognitive shifts, expanded language, increased empathy, spiritual experiences, and abstract thought. In essence, the mushrooms might have turbocharged our evolution, kicking our ancestors' brains into a higher gear. It's a speculative theory, sure, but consider this. The human brain suddenly doubled in size in a relatively short evolutionary window, and we still don't fully understand why. What if that jump wasn't just a random mutation? What if it was a nudge from a curious, alien intelligence hidden in a mushroom? People who take high doses of psilocybin often report contacting beings, mischievous elves, insectoid entities, or vast cosmic intelligences. They describe receiving information, insights, a sense that the mushroom itself is a kind of technology, an ancient interface. Are these just hallucinations of a drugged brain? Or a glimpse of something real, something that's been waiting for us to tune in? Look, the mainstream scientific view is clear. Mushrooms are Earth-native organisms. Their DNA places them firmly in the tree of life, alongside plants and animals. Panspermia remains an intriguing hypothesis, but has no direct evidence. The stoned ape theory is fun to think about, but it's not accepted science. And yet, the more we learn about fungi, the more they refuse to fit our comfortable categories. They are ancient colonists that decompose death and turn it into life. They build planetary communication networks. They survive space. They manipulate minds. They eat radiation. You can stick to the textbook answer. Fungi are simply a unique branch of Earth's evolution. Or you can entertain the delicious possibility that the first mushroom you ever saw was, in fact, a message from a distant world. A little biological probe that hitched a ride here eons ago, spread through the soil, and has been quietly gardening our planet ever since. Maybe they're not invaders, maybe they're gardeners, and we're just growing in their soil. So the next time you walk through a forest and spot a mushroom pushing through the leaf litter, give it a nod of respect. Whether it's a distant relative, an ancient stowaway, or a biological internet node, you're looking at one of the most fascinating forms of life we've ever encountered. Are mushrooms aliens? Probably not, in the little green men sense. But they're the most alien thing we have on Earth. And honestly, that's close enough for me.